are some of the biggest challenges that students have when they're coming to a school like this? Just, I guess, in learning engineering in general.
Learning engineering in general is quite a challenge for starters. I think the biggest problem really is that students want to get involved with music initially, and the hardest part is motivating them to understand that to be good at what they want to do in the future, they have to understand the basics, which basically means that they have to start with very fundamental things, some of which they think they already know.
Especially if they've already got the software or something like that. Is that a challenge maybe too?
Yes, a lot of people claim to know how logic works. And then you sit them down in front of logic and you ask them to do something, and you realize that it's possibly the slowest, most tedious way they could possibly doing that task. Just because you have the software doesn't mean that you know it. And a lot of software has several different ways of doing the same thing. And in one application, or in one context, it might be better to do something one way, and in another context, it might be better to do exactly the same thing in a different way. And so those are the things that actually make a professional. Somebody who can decide there are 4 ways to do this, and this is the best one at the moment. That's the difficult bit. Well, the way it works here is that we have labs that are one-on-one, essentially. A student works on their own, gets help from the supervisor when they get stuck. When it comes to the studios, it's almost impossible to run a studio just on your own unless you already know what you're doing. So we form little groups of students, usually pairs, where one is the engineer, the other is the assistant for one particular session. Then they swap over, and the assistant from the first session becomes the engineer in the next. And that way they get both perspectives. They see both sides of the glass. They have to set up a microphone in the live room, and they have to route the signal on the console. And it gives them more lab hours, essentially.
So this school basically divides it in half between instructional hours and lab hours, basically, more or less?
Not quite half as far as the actual hours is concerned, but as far as the value of the work is concerned and the assessment is concerned, there, yes, it is 50-50.